Hello again. From time to time, campaigns are launched against the Jewish and Muslim method of slaughtering animals by cutting their throats and draining out the blood. It is sometimes alleged that this technique is cruel and unnecessary. Of course, such disapproval is often a way of indirectly attacking immigrants and Jews by framing the objection in terms of animal welfare. It appears to be a neutral concern and nothing at all to do with ethnicity. Few people are deceived, though. For my own part, I eat little meat, and all slaughterhouses are ghastly places, so I don't really have any strong opinion about the matter. One thing, though, that does amuse me is that many of those complaining about this subject are nominally Christians, and none of them seem to be aware that Christians too are forbidden by their religion to eat any meat which is not from an animal slaughtered by the kosher or halal method. In other words, no Christian can, with a good conscience, eat ordinary bacon, beef, chicken, sausages, hamburgers or steaks. Let me try and explain this because it's something that I don't meet one Christian in 1,000 that's aware of this prohibition. Around 50 AD, maybe 20 years after the death of Jesus, the two chief apostles and a bunch of other disciples met in Jerusalem to decide which of the Jewish laws should apply to Christians. The meeting was presided over by the apostles Peter and Paul. There had been a lot of debate about whether Christians needed to be circumcised. Some of the apostles and disciples thought that circumcision was necessary, but some others thought that it was putting off people that would otherwise have become Christians. Anyway, at the Council of Jerusalem, it was decided that circumcision wasn't necessary. Now, Peter, of course, had already been told in a vision that the list of kosher animals could be disregarded, so that was handy. He'd had a vision saying that the kosher regulations with regard to the types of different animals that were forbidden had all been overruled now. That meant that Christians could eat pigs, crabs and prawns without any difficulty, which was handy. Another thing that might have put off some Gentiles, but this was good. What about the method of killing animals, though, which were intended to be eaten? This was one of the questions which had to be settled at the Council of Jerusalem. The Apostle Paul was there, and you can read all about this in chapter 15 of the book of Acts in the New Testament, needless to say. Peter said, and I quote, "It is my judgment, therefore, that we should not make it difficult for the Gentiles who are turning to God. Instead, we should write to them, telling them to abstain from food polluted by idols, from sexual immorality, from the meat of strangled animals, and from blood." That passage may be found in the book of Acts, chapter 15, verse 20. Paul agreed, and he and Barnabas carried a letter to Antioch to this effect. Strangled animals simply means animals killed by other means than that of having their throats cut in the approved fashion. In other words, those whose breath has been stopped while the blood is still flowing through their veins. This is why specific mention is made of abstaining from blood. In other words, those who wanted to be Christians can only eat animals that have been slaughtered correctly by having the blood drained from them. Just to be perfectly clear about it, the two chief apostles of the church, Peter and Paul, agreed that Christians should only eat meat slaughtered in the kosher way, and about this there is not the slightest doubt. Ordinary meat on sale in butcher shops is forbidden to Christians. The halal method of slaughter, which is based upon the Jewish method and the Christian method, is precisely the same. Animals that are killed have their throats cut so all the blood can drain out immediately. That means that the meat is fit to eat and you don't end up eating a load of blood. I have no axe at all to grind here. In the first place, I very seldom eat meat anyway, and in the second, I'm not a Christian, Muslim or Jew, so none of this really makes any difference to me. It is curious, though, that some people who represent themselves as Christians object to kosher and halal slaughter, quite unaware that this is as important to their own religions as it is to Islam and Judaism. The next time somebody objects to the provision of halal meat in hospitals or schools, it's worth bearing in mind that such meat is, or should be, an integral part of every Christian's diet, at least those who are not strict vegetarians.